Hello, everybody, and welcome to our first AMA of 2024. New year, same AMA day and time. Very excited to be here as always. I am going to just start off with a preemptive apology. I am still sick, so if I randomly disappear for a moment or am much slower to respond, it's probably because I'm coughing. So sorry, and I'll be right back. But aside from that, let's roll into this week's AMA. Starting off with some updates. The first update, I believe, maybe Fox, I think you were planning on talking about, but the Orbit Bridge. Do we have Fox? We may not have Fox. Well, to kick it off, if you have not seen, the Orbit Bridge was compromised on, depending on what part of the world you are in, either New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. And there were many funds drained. However, Orbit is trying to track those funds and freeze them and see what else they can do. So we are in touch with the Klaytn team, of course, and the Klaytn team is in touch with the Orbit team. And so at the current moment, it is kind of a wait and see what happens. So far, we have uh, disincentivized the gardens in Sarandale pairs that included Orbit assets. Uh, Fox, are you? I see you're back now. Can you hear me this time? Seems like you still cannot. Dang it. All right, we'll figure it out. But oh, hey, welcome back. So anyway, was just talking about Orbit, but if you want to take over, I just kind of started talking about what we've done so far. But feel free to go through that. I think you can recap it better.
Yeah, Orbit. So yeah, I mean, it's always a lot of things are happening here in the crypto space, always something new. We've had experience with something like this before, as a lot of you know, over on Harmony, they had a very similar incident with the Horizon Bridge. So when that happened last time, it kind of hit us hard. A lot of our treasury was there on chain, and we were heavily impacted by it on a project level and even on just individual levels. So a lot of lessons were learned from that, and it was really good to see that when something like this happened again, we actually were prepared in a very real way. We had implemented all kinds of changes to how we store our treasury and how we manage that, and our like reaction time and stuff that we had learned last time about what to do and what not to do really helped us. And so I'm happy to announce that we were very minimally impacted from that. And we also, like, really quickly, once the news broke, we hopped into a huddle as a team for like 3 or 4 hours and just kind of talked about all the things that have to happen. We implemented some votes on our committees to hurry up and take action in like the pools and the gardens that were impacted. And we also created that like announcement that was like released so that everyone can stay on the same page here in our community and that everyone can stay informed. And all in all, I think it was handled really well. And I just want to say a big kudos to everyone on our team that was involved with that, which was most of our team, honestly. And we're still sort of in contact with all of the people over at Klaytn as they are able to like receive new updates and things. I'm sure they'll let us know as well, and we're also asking them fairly frequently about this as well. So as we learn new things, we'll be sure to pass on anything that we can over to you guys ASAP. But it is kind of one of those things that's still ongoing and still active. So we'll sort of have to wait and see how it all plays out. I think that's most of the things that we needed to cover over there, Bull. On anything else?
I think that summed it up very well. Appreciate you, sir. Let's see, and then I know Magnus also had an update for us.
Yeah, so I just wanted to announce that SubSquid, which is a decentralized data lake and query engine, they have a whole framework you can use to basically scrape the blockchain and run like a custom index, or if you want to know ERC20s that have been transferred, or pretty much anything you could possibly imagine, is that they've completed their archive of DFK chain. So as opposed to having to go block by block with an RPC, you can basically get like chunks of the data at a time. So it enables some really fast indexing solutions to be built out. And yeah, so if you're interested in using that, go check it out on their docs, and they have some good tutorials to get started there. But yeah, I'm really excited to have this archive, because it makes any kind of data gathering on DFK chain way faster than any other methods I've seen so far. So yeah, definitely go check it out if you're interested in that.
Appreciate you, good sir. And then we are actually going to bounce back to Fox for an update on Crystal Vale Gardens.
Okay, I'm trying to set up my headphones, but they're having issues, so you guys are gonna have to bear with me. But yeah, missions, as I think everyone is aware by now, probably, have ended as of December 30th last year. It was like 3 a.m. my time, and I was staying up to make sure everything kind of transitioned smoothly, and it looks like everything went off automatically without a hitch. Crystal is now 100% minted, and looks like everything happened as it was supposed to happen over in the gardens. So things are good there. That was, I mean, it's like the first time that we've ever hit this like milestone as a project. So it was one of the off without a hitch. Let's see. So the not replacement, but more of a additional thing that we're launching to incentivize LP staking. We had a contract that we wrote up for that in December, and we had that audited, and there was a process there with uh, our like auditing partner for that. And we received that back, and there was just a few changes that were suggested. There was one issue that they found that was sort of like more of a moderate. So we got those fixed, and it has a clean bill now for the audit, so that's really good. Got that deployed yesterday, actually, to mainnet, so that's live, but it hasn't yet been incentivized. That's planned to be next week. And in the process of that, we also are creating a new interface for it. So in the gardens, you'll be able to see sort of like the old pools that are already existing right now that are not incentivized anymore. And you'll also be able to see the new ones that are there from like this other contract. And it'll work very similarly to how the jeweler works right now, where basically some of the proceeds from the game that are like allocated, I think, to the burning right now, we're planning to redirect some of that into this other contract to incentivize LP staking. And as those flow into it, the amounts that you earn as a percentage of that will increase based on how much you have staked as a percentage of like how much is staked in total, basically. So very similar to the jeweler, but for each pool, it kind of has its own pool, basically. So I'm excited about that. The interface is mostly done. I've actually been working on that all morning, and the interface will also include a like really easy way to migrate your liquidity over. So you don't have to split your seeds or anything like that. There shouldn't be any I don't want to say taxable events, but I just said it. But I'm not a tax pro, right? But you don't have to split your seeds. You don't have to do anything with that. Basically, it's just going to be unstaking it from the old one, restaking it on the new one. And the process there with the migration will be pretty seamless. It's just basically a two-step process, and it'll be on like a like one-page thing that has step 1, step 2. You just hit 2 buttons and you're done. So that should be pretty smooth and seamless. And the other aspect of this is the impacts to the questing for the gardening quest. And Hubert, I don't know if you wanted to say something around this, or if you want me to just like plow on and take it.
Sure, I could jump in a little bit. I did want to just also mention. Can you hear me, Bolon? Am I hearable?
I can
hear you.
Hubert.
Cool. Well, sorry, Fox, if you become able to hear me. But yeah, I just also want to add real quick on that with when you're with this migration to the new contract for the staking of LPs. When you do withdraw LPs from the garden, it will also claim any unclaimed rewards that you have. So just something to be aware of. That's kind of always the case with that contract, how it works. So there's nothing that we would be able to do to adjust that. So if you do have any pending rewards, just be aware that those would be claimed. As far as with the gardening quest, we will announce the date later, but once we do have that set up to be able to migrate, we also plan to have at the same time the gardening rewards, the gardening quest rewards switch over to being from that new contract. So that means any pending gardening quest that will be happening during that transition period, like if it was started on the old setup and then it was changed to the new setup, when you claim, you would receive 0 rewards from that, just with how the logic will work. So highly recommend that you don't have any gardening quests running at the transition time, but also just noting that as people are moving over, the way that quest works is it's always looking at the total amount of LPs that are staked in the contract that it's looking at. So likely the first period of time, I don't know how many hours, but as it, I assume people won't all be migrating over right away. Some people on vacation are not around. I expect there will be a period of time where there will be fewer LPs staked, so that would mean greater rewards during that time period as well. So just so that you're aware of that. But yeah, we'll have more to announce on that at the time. And I don't know, Fox, can you hear me now?
Would you like me to repeat
We
something?
failed the Verizon commercial. Okay. I guess, yeah, I think the other thing that Fox was going to say, and I guess I'll say it now just to cover the silence, but was that we'll be turning on the rewards at some period of time after that. Maybe he already did say that, but just that there will be a period of time where people will be adding in.
So I see you're still speaking, but I was listening on YouTube and it's lagged a bit, but I could hear most of what you said, just not here. So I'm probably speaking over you right now, and I apologize. But yeah, that was good stuff. I agree with and condone everything that Hubert just said. And yeah, that's basically the plan for the migration, and just stay tuned for an announcement. We will definitely put all of the specifics into our Discord in the announcements channel, so everyone will have adequate time to prepare for that. We'll have the exact time and date that it will switch over and all that info, so stay tuned. Thanks.
We love technology. Yeah, and Hubert, if you want to finish that thought real quick, you're welcome to.
Yeah, I think, well, basically said that, yeah, we'll have, it'll all be in the announcement, but just the main point is that there's going to be a period of time where we have people switch over. The gardening rewards will be switched over, but the rewards from fees will not be turned on yet. So they're just so you're aware that there will be that period of time. But all those details, as far as like, I expect it's going to be something like 24 hours, but we'll have that kind of all in the announcement once we have it. So we're just finishing everything up right now. So anyway, that's it.
Well, appreciate you, gentlemen. hopefully Fox can hear me because I got another question for him. So that's it for updates. We're going to go into some questions, and the first one is related to duels for Fox. For the next season, would it be possible to mix up the order and or groupings of the class bonuses to either be randomized or more randomized than currently? Any thoughts on that front?
Yeah, and I can still hear you, thankfully. After I answer this, I'll probably jump off and try to join again and probably get banned by Elon. So we'll see. Wish me luck. But for now, I'm gonna just hit this one. And yeah, I think that's a really cool idea. That's actually very much in line with the original plan for that. Um, it's tricky because you can't really do things on the blockchain on a cron basis. So it's hard to have it be completely like randomly done each time. But I think what I want to do for it is just basically have it such that it might re-queue or like create the next group basically ahead of time, so that players can kind of be ready for it. And how that'll work is just whoever's doing matchmaking or something, it might just add a little bit of a thing onto whichever one when it's ready for the next one to be randomly chosen. And that's probably the best way to do it. But I'll spend some time thinking about that some more. But I do want those to be more random. Also, just a general update kind of on duels. It ends next week on the 10th for this current season. And I'm actually in the process now of like refactoring it so that the future duels seasons will basically just be operating off of the same contract. Up until now, we've had a new contract for each new season, and that's partly because there's been so many like new things added and a lot of like refactoring in between each one. But we're at the point now where most of the features that we had envisioned for duels have been built out. So what I'd like to do is basically set it up to run off of a single contract, so we don't need to have a big, huge new process each time we add a new one, and also set it up such that it will automatically stop and start new seasons on its own, without us necessarily having to do a lot of manual work each time. And what that means for the players is it should be a lot easier and like a lot faster to start a new season, such that it could even get to the point where there isn't any downtime in between seasons or something. And so that's basically the goal for that. I think duels is a like really successful thing, as like we can see from all of the numbers and such, and that it's also really fun. I see a lot of like streams and things about duels, so I'm excited about that. I'm going to be working hard on that, and that should be ready for this next season, such that it will be the last duel contract for duels going forward, and then we'll just have automatic seasons after that. So we'll still add small things here and there, but it won't entail having to do a whole new contract. So I'm stoked about that.
Yeah, that is super cool. Very much looking forward to that. If you do hop down to see if you can come back, I hope you don't get shadow banned again. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Twitter does what Twitter wants. All right, let's see. Question for Hubert. I know travel is farther away, but do you ever envision a scenario where a hero's agility or class plays a part in its travel speed?
Yeah, probably not, just because there's going to be traveling groups, and that would be just one more like little thing that you'd have to be aware of, and I think that's just maybe one level too deep of complication for it. So likely not. We still are a ways away, as you mentioned. So it's possible that that can be revisited again, but my current thought is that we would not do that.
Awesome. Appreciate the clarity there. I got more for you. Don't go anywhere. So, with the current stat scaling system that Combat is now using, uh, is there a different scale for heroes of different rarity, or is there a concern of like commons, for example, quickly becoming outpaced by mythics?
So I'm assuming that this is talking about how we have like stat scores and how like speed and everything else is kind of a dynamic system that's based on the average level of all heroes. If that's what we're talking about, then it's already kind of built in to look at the difference between like common and mythic heroes all the way up to level 100. So like even though yes, the higher rarity heroes do get more stats, like the how do you word that? Like where like at level 10 you might have maybe 20 or so more points in your stats total from your rarity between like common and mythic. With level 100, for example, you'd have like 200 more points total, just based on if everything was averaged out. So that's kind of built into the equation. It's kind of built in to expect that range to be growing, and as it does, like it's going to be like it just the equation basically handles that already. So you know, if it's just an average mythic versus an average common going all the way up to level 100, you would expect the average common to have the same score basically all the way up, whereas and the mythic would also have the same score. Obviously, there's a lot of randomness that happens during leveling up, and you know, the true average hero doesn't actually exist. But yeah. So anyway, there is not a second set of equations for different or additional equations for different rarities. It all uses the same, and it's set up in a way where it works within this dynamic range of stats that we have. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question.
The answer is Hubert Math Magic. Also, I now have a new goal of creating the quintessential average hero. So that's going to be a new task of mine. But I got more for you, Hubert.
Hey.
On hunts, is it possible for stamina to start refilling when the hunt starts rather than when it is collected?
Yeah, no. I mean, it is possible, but I think that's kind of against the theory of the way we've set up all of our questing. It's generally stamina is spent when it's done. If it's about collected versus complete, there may be something we can trigger or go off of so that stamina does start recovering the moment that like we have logged that you completed the fight. If this is just a matter of maybe you complete, but there's a bug and it takes a while for you to be able to complete and get your rewards. So you kind of lose stamina there. If that's the issue that's happening, I think we can look at adjusting it so that it's at least when the fight is actually finished. But you know, technically the stamina that's being used is that effort of doing that fight as you're doing it. So if we were to have you start recovering at the beginning, yeah, it just kind of goes against really everything that I don't know. I don't want to do it that way. So
No, and I do think complete versus claim was also, I think, equally relevant.
Yeah, I think if there is an issue there, I can take a look here after this, and if there is, we can probably make an adjustment there without it being too difficult. But just yeah, in general, with all questing, you don't recover stamina until after the quest is done. So, and that's the general approach I want to always be taking.
Very nice. Thoughts on having an auto attack option, particularly for a hunt that has run out of mana and potions, and just have like an auto basic attack command?
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting idea. I think you know I can see the logic behind that, but at the same time, it also kind of leads into being a little bit more automated and a little bit less like that you're playing. And you know, there may be cases where even though you don't have mana, you don't have potions, you still have the option to pass turn. You still have the option to reposition. And you know, as we add more things, I think there's also like triggerable like passives and triggerable other things that are going to exist that may cause you to want to do something different. So with all that in mind, I think it generally our approach is that we want the players to be in there clicking the buttons, playing the game, and I think more of it is about trying to find a balance where that doesn't happen as often. I think it can happen for sure in hunts where you run out of MP. It happens to me. It's kind of set up that way, but when we're balancing things, we do try to have the fight generally last so that it doesn't go that far into that realm. And it kind of depends on the heroes and how much MP they have and all that other stuff too. So anyway, I don't think it's a bad idea per se, but I'm not sure that we're gonna go down that road at this time.
Still a lot to be built out on that front too. Speaking of other options there, thoughts on having a defensive move like pass turn, but increasing defense rather than initiative?
I think that is, that's a pretty common thing in RPGs, to like basically a defend option versus a turn passing option. I'll think about it. It could be that we replace pass turn. I don't know that I'd want to have pass turn and defend exist at the same time if we did include defend, just because it's just one other option and they kind of conflict with each other to a degree. But if we did add it, it would probably also not give back any initiative either. So it would be like a full turn action rather than a kind of a half turn action that the pass turn is. So so there's some kind of trade-offs and things to think about, and I will think about it. But yeah, no promises.
Fair enough. I like that response. In the, I guess, grander scheme of things, and to a point that you kind of just made anyway, will we as the team actively discourage PvE and PvP botting?
So especially with our combat system and just the idea of making a game in general, you see it a lot in other MMOs and whatnot. We as game developers want people to play our games, and bots are not necessarily playing the game. It's just a method of trying to maximize rewards. So we are generally against botting in our combat system. We have discussed countermeasures. We don't have anything to announce at this time, but we are looking into it, and I guess it'll kind of depend on what we see and how bad we think it might get. It does. We don't really want to get into like an arms race with botters, but we also want to make sure that we're protecting the gameplay for players, and not letting it turn into something where people feel that they need to have a bot to be able to have an edge in the game. So that's our stance. Nothing really more to say from me. I don't know if anyone else wants to add anything more to that.
Hey, I'll add something real quick. I think Hubert's sentiment of we're game developers making a game, and we want people to play the game. I think it really sums it all up, and hopefully people will embrace playing rather than botting. And yeah, we'll do our best to protect the player.
Yeah, and I think it's been clear, but just in case, like, we are talking about the combat system here. We've talked about like gathering and questing a lot in the past. We're not talking about that. We're talking about within the combat system. But I just want to make sure, for in case it wasn't clear, that's the topic of this conversation. Anybody have anything else they want to add to that topic? Taking that as a no. So we've mentioned that when the next hunt becomes available, heroes will be able to participate in both hunts. excuse me, within the same cooldown timer. Do we have any concerns about the amount of XP that will be available for heroes?
So I kind of find this question amusing in a way, because I remember so many people complaining about how much XP they are like not getting enough before, and now it's the other way around. So I think, you know, I'm not too worried about it. Yeah, it is more XP, but this has always kind of been what we've communicated, that we want our, you know, combat to be the best source of getting XP for your heroes. That does, I guess, come with, you know, the implication that, yeah, heroes are going to be able to level up faster, you know, and that does mean, especially when you get above level 10, that you need to use the next rune. And I do know that, you know, that's a pretty rare rune right now. So if there's just a concern about that, and, you know, needing to level up faster, it's I guess, yeah, that's true. It would, if you were to hunt with the same heroes and do both hunts every day, you'd be getting a lot more XP than you would otherwise. But I don't necessarily see that as a problem. I think, you know, people will enjoy it, and they want to feel that. I think the XP is one of the important rewards from the quest. Yeah, I'm not really planning on adjusting that down per se, I don't think so.
I'll add a couple thoughts, because I didn't during the botting discussion, but I kind of wanted to, but I also don't want to muddy the water. But I think this is related a bit. You know, like, you see a lot of idle type games out there that are a lot of fun, but it's basically like, you know, you sort of like can set your heroes or your like characters to be doing things, and they'll just kind of automatically do it and slowly be earning rewards and things. That's very similar to our questing system right now. And even like expeditions and things kind of are in that same realm of things, but it's not the only thing that our game has or like will have. Like, there's a bunch of different aspects to the like universe out there that is DFK. There's combat. In the future, we'll have things with lands. There's going to be all kinds of different aspects to the game, and it's the active aspects that are going to be the most rewarding in the game, just because that's how games work. Like, the more time and effort that you spend on it, the more you'll get out of it as well. So there will be things for everyone. There will be things for those that just want to do more like idle type things, or that just want to do LP staking and farming, or like whatever it is. And if you're like one of those that like wants to play and wants to do combat and all those types of things, you can have that option as well, and sort of have like a higher return on that, because you're spending more of your active time on it as well. And I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, no, I appreciate both of you gentlemen. Sorry, I was coughing and now I'm out of breath. But really appreciate the added background there, and taking the question on. And then let's see. So where'd we go? There we are. Another one for Hubert about future hunts content. With the Void Shard content specifically in mind, is the current thought that heroes that can beat the current hunts, which means that they can get Void Shards, would also be at least generally able to compete in the Void Shard gated content, or is the Void Shard gated content more likely to be at the higher end of the level scale?
Yeah, that's kind of a nuanced. Well, I have kind of a nuanced answer to that question. The like where we start the level cap for, I mean, not really level cap, but where we start like the level of the enemies and where the scaling begins is still something that, you know, it's not necessarily always going to be 10 for every single hunt that we create. So the next one could be a higher level. I'm not ready to commit to something like that at this time, but there's a possibility though that it would be, for example, level 15 as the base level, And so that would mean, yeah, if you got void shards from a lower level hunt, then the end goal is that we have many different hunts, and that those hunts would have different kind of starting points and different difficulty tiers. So as we're kind of building this out step by step, we're trying to make sure that we can have it set to a place where our players are at. But players are going to be continually growing their heroes, and we're going to be continually adding content, eventually raising their level cap and whatnot. So I think you can expect to, down the road, see hunts that do kind of start at a higher point. And also with these hunts, I do also intend them to be ones that would have a larger battle budget, meaning that you'd have more potions available to you, and kind of being set up to where it will be quite difficult to win without at least good gear and using a good chunk of your battle budget as just being able to make it through. So I think we have a lot of options to make it difficult. Some of the heroes that do get void shards should be able to do those void shard hunts as well. But the intent with those is that they're gated. You have to have worked to be able to participate in them, and then in generally we want the rewards to be more rewarding with them as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I think everybody's very excited for more hunts content, which I won't plug for alpha yet. We'll see. It's still early. I might, but not yet. Let's see here. Speaking of future hunts content, or really just future combat content, I guess, in general, any thoughts on having different levels of difficulty that the player would select for that interaction, which would obviously then affect their rewards as well?
Yeah, I mean, in general, I do like that idea. I think with the hunts in particular, I'm not sure that we'll do that like right away or sometime soon, but we do have kind of something in mind for having a little bit more player choice in terms of the difficulty of what you're doing. But I will just leave that at that for now. We do have a lot of plans in the future and are kind of working towards multiple things at once. But yeah, in general, I do want to have there be some degree of player choice in terms of the content you're doing. Once you have the travel system in place, especially, we're going to have enemies available in only specific locations, and kind of the idea there is that like further away from the main town is going to be higher level content. So there's also just kind of choice in where you are as well, and that's a pretty common thing in games is just go to the harder area and you can fight harder things. So that's the general approach that we're working towards right now.
Awesome. Yes. Also very much looking forward to that. Let's see. I'm going to give Hubert a surprise break. Don't get used to it, though. I'm sure I'll be back. But we're going to throw one over at Beetle Dude for a moment. Little curveball. Hopefully he's paying attention. We'll find out. An idea to help protect against accidental Gen Zero sales that might be easily implemented. Curious of your thoughts. On the sell interface, thoughts of having it default to the generation range selector defaulting to a minimum of 1. So that way when you load up the hero selling interface, your Gen Zeros will not actually show at all. Really, they'll be filtered out. You would have to enable them back in.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I know we currently have the besides just having a bunch of warnings, you also have the kind of confirmation window that pops up if the price is outside of the normal range. That sounds like it could also be fine. We could just not show Gen Zero heroes at all ever. But yeah, I mean, it's just more contextual items that could be added. I think probably once we get to the point where we have hero tagging, that would help quite a bit. Where essentially let people just select which heroes shouldn't show up in the sell list would probably be the most ideal, which I think could essentially front run that suggestion as well. It never does, Maddie. It never does. We get a Mr. Zipper to help. That's how we move it up the list. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting suggestion. I think it could, it's one of the many that I think we could look at to increase the chances of that not happening, I guess. But yeah, the list. I thought my list was going to be unscathed this time, but it wasn't.
We can't allow that. I guess as a broader question, this is a very open-ended question, so anybody who wants to chime in, feel free. Thoughts about utilizing a proof of work chain for another realm in the future?
I can hop in here and just say that one of the issues with proof of work chains historically, I'm not saying this problem won't be solved by technology in the future and things just advancing, but typically they're just not as scalable, can't do as much processing of gas and can't have as high block limits, both of which are pretty critical to our game as it sits right now. With questing and even hunts and most of our really critical systems. So I'm not saying it'll never happen, but just seeing out what's out there with current proof of work chains, I don't think our current stack would run very well on it. But that's not to say that technology might advance rapidly in the next couple of years with proof of work. Maybe ZK technology comes in and makes that more possible. But yeah, definitely going to be kind of a non-starter with the current tech stack.
Yeah, I agree with everything man has said. I also just wanted to throw out that we're looking to do more with our outposts strategy in the future. And for those that aren't aware, the strategy there is to create sort of like a mini, small like outpost like zone that will be on other chains that we're not on for the most part, but it will be a way for somebody, if you're on Ethereum, for example, and actually Ethereum is not a good example because they just switched to be proof of stake, but if you're on a proof of work chain that is supported by an outpost, which we're planning to support a lot of chains in the future, you'll at least be able to do some things in our game, like probably buy some of the assets like Jewel or Heroes or like power tokens and things if you just are interested in that. And just sort of have access to it. And the way a lot of that will work is it'll be powered by like cross-chain bridge type things in the back end. And there's a lot of solutions out there that are doing things like this, such as Layer Zero and many others that we're in talks with right now that we haven't announced. But that, in a way, is a strategy for us to be on more chains, including potentially those that are proof of work. But again, when it comes to playing the game and on-chain transactions, as you all know, we are the king of on-chain transactions, and we just do a ton. And we do want to make sure that we target ecosystems and chains and technology that support that really well.
Awesome. I appreciate both of you and understood some of the words that you said. But next question. Has the team thought about doing rewards or giveaways for consumable items by making them soulbound? So, having whatever the case may be, a giveaway or rewards that offers, for example, runes, but those runes are soulbound, so they have to be consumed. They cannot be sold.
I beat you, Hubert. So, yeah, I think that's something that we have considered and have talked about. We also currently do some existing ones right now with like crystal vouchers for some of our giveaways. There will be more things in the future that will be soulbound. It just comes down to the strategy that we want to have for each aspect of our game. But I'm definitely open to things like that. Over to Hubert, so that you can't shut this down because I already said it. There you go.
Yeah, no, I think you kind of said most of it. I think for like existing assets, just anytime we do something like that, you know, it is a bunch of extra work to do. We have to kind of implement two things because it wouldn't be the same thing. You know, there's also kind of a development cost that comes along with doing something like that. So we also need to kind of measure if it's worth it to do that or not. So yeah, but anyway, that's all I have to add.
I'll just add real quick too. There's just so many rewards in game for in-game play, and so you know So when we did decide to figure out how to reward people, like with the voucher system, for example, we did really focus on new player acquisition. And so when we create, you know, campaign relationships with outside partners, and you're going to see a couple more campaigns pop up in the next week or two that we're excited about. That is our go-to reward for those campaigns because it brings people into the game. It makes it so that they can actually go in and experience it, see the tavern, you know, get signed up, get a profile set up and everything like that to make it more likely that they'll try it out and not just go and quickly sell that asset. So that was kind of the focus of us using that type of reward.
Very nice. And this is actually an unrelated question, but kind of related, which is amusing because it just worked out that way. Sometimes life works out. But curious if there are any plans developing for well-advertised airdrops of various DFK assets. It's airdrop season across many popular chains. Basically wondering if that is something that we are considering at this time. Early on, we did a number of them, obviously, back in the day. Any thoughts there? All right, I'll share. Oh, go ahead, Fox.
Sorry again. Yeah, I love airdrops. I think it's great, but it has to be executed well in order for it to be a success. And I think we've learned a lot from our experiences in this. We've obviously done a lot of really great and amazing airdrops in the past, and we have some in the future, I'm sure, as well. I'll just point out that some of the difficulties we had in the past with airdrops were how to do snapshots in an effective way. A lot of them would be centered around like X-Jewel, which was a thing back then. But the problem with that was that it was still like very liquid. So a lot of people would say, "Oh, here's an airdrop. Let's hurry and like rush in," and then right after the airdrop ends, let's hurry and rush out. And it created a lot of disruption. But actually, that was one of the things that I spent a lot of time thinking about with the C-Jewel system, and it's implemented in such a way that it's actually very easy to do on-chain snapshots and have it be like retroactive snapshots as well. It's basically built into the contract, so I really love that about the C-Jewel system. The other part of it is it's very like resistant to manipulation by like rushing in and out and things like that because of the time lock system that it has. So it's set up already to be a very much better experience if we do similar things down the line.
Awesome. Yeah, very nice. Appreciate you. Let's see. Jumping back over to Hubert. Will tailors be able to create visages?
Kind of. I mean, we do plan to have normal equipment also being able to be converted into visages. We haven't announced anything about how that will work yet, but so in a way, basically any piece of equipment that exists in the game would be convertible into a visage, though it wouldn't be convertible back. So in a way, any crafting profession that makes any gear would be able to create visages through that approach, but not like just making specifically a visage without it being able to be equipment. That's kind of not something I've considered. I suppose it could be possible, but not really the main focus I'd have for it in the beginning, I think.
Awesome. One more for you, and then I'll let you off the hook for the week, and we'll start wrapping up. There are currently no foraging pets with leather crafting boosts. Is this the long-term plan, or will there one day be all possible combinations of gathering and crafting bonuses?
Let's see if I'm understanding the question. Is it, now you said foraging pets, but I wonder if this was just a question about pets in general, and that there are, I think, okay, so yeah, with pets in general, yeah, the yellow egg pets are going to have different elements available to them, so those would be able to have access to the like leatherworking, and I think that there's generally some overlap between them all, I think, but yeah. Anyway, there would be within all of the pets, there will be at least one type that has access to those bonuses. But I wouldn't expect like fishing pets to necessarily have access to every different crafting bonus set that there will be, if that makes sense.
I think it does. We'll find out if there's a follow-up question to determine if it made sense or not, but I thought it made sense. Very much appreciated, as always. Anybody have any final thoughts? And if not, who wants to request to come up here and bullish us? But while we wait to see if somebody requests, any final thoughts from anybody up here on stage?
I did have a missed announcement. So Super Oracles has actually launched their price feeds on DFK Chain. So that's really valuable if you're looking to build any kind of like lending protocol or anything that really needs accurate prices. And basically those prices are taken from a consortium of centralized exchanges, just to make sure there's no way that can be tampered with on chain with flash loans or anything like that. So it's really secure, and they've got a very sophisticated setup there to make sure those are being weighted properly and whatnot, and to prevent manipulation, and also just making sure they're trustworthy in flight. So if you are looking to build on DFK Chain with anything lending related or anything like that, it's a really good opportunity to hop in and build one of those. Or if you just want the prices in your smart contracts, definitely a good thing to have. So wanted to mention that since I wasn't at the AMA last week.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's super good to know, and a great shout out. Appreciate that, Magnus. Anybody have any other final thoughts? Nope. Hubert, go ahead.
Yep, I did want to just add one thing. I saw it in kind of the Discord yesterday, but we did surpass 100,000 hunts started yesterday, and just wanted to highlight that and kind of mention that this was our very first experience with combat. We launched it with only having 3 of the 22 classes able to use their skills, and with several of the main core mechanics of the game still in development. But still, here we are. We've reached 100,000 hunts. I'm really excited to see people playing it and enjoying it. I read a lot of what you guys say. I hear a lot of what you're saying, and we do have our next hunt coming up. It has been one where just generally with how we're kind of developing out the combat system, we're trying to make it so that every step is an upgrade, where we're also addressing some, adding a new mechanic that needed to be added, or that's part of the overall design. And so with each step that we take, we're we're making it easier to take the step after, because there's just one less thing that needs to be implemented. So while it is taking a little bit more time this time, that's mostly the fault of myself and Ian for giving Beetle Dude a pretty big lift in terms of what we want this hunt to be able to do. But once this is all solved and everything, it makes it so the next time we want to do the same kind of thing, it will take far less time. So I appreciate your patience with everything. I hope that once we have our second hunt out, getting to 200,000 hunts will be happen twice as quickly, and then we'll have more and more combat content as we keep moving forward. So I'm just really looking forward to just continuing to be able to add to the game and being able to give you guys more and more experiences to go out and play. So thank you all for engaging in the hunts, and really bullish for this year. 2024 is looking really exciting for me.
Shout out to Three Wolves who did the 100,000th hunt. Also, if you know our community, you know who Three Wolves is.
Yeah, I was gonna add that on too. I'm so glad you spoke up, Hubert, because just super excited about the 100,000 started hunts out there. And Three Wolves, dang it, I tried to get it too, but I was a few off. So good job. I also wanted to throw out there, I'm excited and just really enjoying the visages, and we just closed the 2 weeks of bloaters, bloater visages, vizies. And so tons of my heroes are running around in bloater suits. But we did just put up the void. It's a void touched, I believe. So check that out. Like we've said before, if it's a single piece, it's only gonna be up for a week. So if you want to have a void touch hero, check it out in the Vizzy shop.
It's a plague mask, just to clarify.
Plague
Void
mask.
The skin color.
Got it. Whoops, sorry about that.
That was also a thing, though. So you can put a plague mask on your void touched hero. There you go.
Thanks for the save.
All right, last call. Anybody else want to add anything before we go over to Dags to give us whatever he decides to say and then bullish us off? All right, Dags, we're all looking at you.
Hell yeah, baby, bullish!
Bullish.
Woo, bullish!
Bullish!
Blow the horn. hell yeah.
Hell yeah, bullish, baby.
That was awesome.
Appreciate you guys and see you next week.
Thanks, everybody. See ya.